Hello, my name is Nick Bright, scholar of East Asian religions.
And I'm Proven Paradox, a guy with a lot of questions.
And you're listening to Bright on Buddhism, a podcast where we discuss East Asian Buddhism, answering listener-submitted questions from listeners just like you, and introducing concepts of Buddhism that you may or may not be familiar with in a casual, conversational setting. Enjoy.
Here, why does the Buddha sometimes speak of his teachings as though it is medicine?
That's a good question. Many understand the teaching to be a remedy for delusion and suffering. They see it as the cure for the condition of samsara.
Interesting. That puts the Buddha in the role of the physician administering the medicine. The metaphor works because the physician is not the reason the medicine works. He just passes it along to those who need it. In the same way, the Buddha did not invent the Dharma, but he is still its source. He transmits it to us and helps remove our afflictions.
Indeed.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Bright on Buddhism. This week we will be discussing Bhaisajyaguru. Who is Bhaisajyaguru? What are some stories about him? What is his significance? We hope you enjoy, so let's get into it. Who is Bhaisajyaguru?
Bhaisajyaguru is most widely known as the Medicine Buddha, and he's part of the Mahayana pantheon of Buddhas. His full name in Sanskrit is Bhaisajyaguru Vaidurya Prabharaja, which means Medicine Master and King of Lapis Lazuli Light. In Chinese, his shortened name is药師如來, and in Japanese, Yakushi Nyorai. In Korean, his name is Yagsa Yodai, and in Vietnamese, Duoc Su Phat. As you can see by his many names, Bhaisajyaguru is worshipped all over East Asia. He's widely known for his association with medicine and for healing. He is said to heal dukkha as though it was an ailment or an illness, and the medicine that he uses is the Dharma. This is an interesting iconographic and textual phenomenon because Shakyamuni and Akshobhya also have been ascribed these medicinal and healing connotations in some contexts. Buddhas in general are sometimes considered physicians for patients sick with dukkha or sick with delusion, using the Dharma as medicine. In this sense, Bhaisajyaguru can be thought of as a singular, distilled personification of that aspect. Bhaisajyaguru first appears in references to him by mantras that were practiced in Central Asian regions around the 3rd century CE. This region of Central Asia we refer to includes parts of present-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and the western regions of China. The mantra in Sanskrit is Om Bhaisajye Bhaisajye Bhaisajya Samugate Svaha, and scholars suspect that the practice of Bhaisajyaguru's mantra was brought to China in the 4th century or thereabouts by means of the Silk Routes. Bhaisajyaguru offers a very interesting example of how Buddhist practice spreads and changes. Buddhism originated in northern India, and it traveled to this Central Asian region, where Bhaisajyaguru became a very popular deity. Then, Bhaisajyaguru worship came back to northern India, where he became very popular later on in history. This same kind of process has taken place with other Buddhas as well, like Amitabha, for example. Bhaisajyaguru's most popular text is the Bhaisajyaguru Vaidurya Prabharaja Sutra, where we read about his achievement of bodhisattvahood. In common Mahayana fashion, when he achieves bodhisattvahood, he makes 12 specific vows. Many of these are very typical, but others are very specific to his nature as a physician or as a medicine Buddha. I'll give a summary of his vows here. Number 1. I will enlighten all beings. This is a very common vow. All bodhisattvas make this vow. Number 2. I vow that my body will be like crystal, pure and flawless, radiating rays of splendid light to every corner, brightening up and enlightening all beings with wisdom. Again, similarly to the previous one, this is a very common vow. Number 3. I vow that I shall grant, by means of boundless wisdom, all beings with the inexhaustible things that they require, and relieving them from pains and guilt resulting from materialistic desires. This is the first place where we see his idea of healing and relieving pain and dukkha come up. Number 4. I vow to lead those who have gone astray back to the path of righteousness. Let them be corrected and return to the Buddha way for enlightenment. Again, very common. Number 5. I vow that I shall enable sentient beings to observe precepts for spiritual purity and moral conduct. Again, very common. Number 6. I vow that all beings who are physically disabled or sick in all aspects be blessed with good health, both physically and mentally. All who pays homage to the Buddha faithfully will be blessed. This vow and the next one are the key vows for Bhaisajyaguru and cement his status as a healer Buddha. Number 7. I vow to relieve all pain and poverty of the very sick and poor. The sick be cured, the helpless are helped, and the poor be assisted. This vow again continues in the same theme, cementing his status as a healer Buddha who specifically also looks at the poor and impoverished, as well as the ill and disabled. Number 8. I vow to help women who are undergoing sufferings and tortures and seeking for transformation into men. By hearing my name, paying homage, and praying, their wishes would be granted and ultimately attain Buddhahood. This vow is very uncommon. Not many Buddhas or Bodhisattvas make any vows specific to women. It's a bit problematic because it still assumes that women are desiring transformation into a man's body, and it also assumes that that's necessary for achieving Buddhahood. But it's still fascinating that he singles out women even though he has already vowed to save all sentient beings.
In a less misogynistic context where women could be counted as Buddhas, I could see this vow imply a role like a midwife. It looks to me like another place where Mahayana is trying to undo the rampant sexism that we see in earlier texts. Like we discussed when reading the Lotus Sutra with the goddess and the dragon princess. I think this has good intentions, but it doesn't quite get to the goal. It doesn't quite go far enough.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. Number 9. I vow to free all beings from evil thoughts and its control. I shall lead them on to the path of light through inculcating them with righteousness and honor so that they will walk the Buddha way. Yet another vow just like number 1 and the others, just vowing to enlighten all sentient beings. Number 10. I vow to save prisoners who have genuinely repented and victims of natural disasters. Those who are sincere will be blessed by my supreme powers and be freed from sufferings. This goes further towards his status as a medicine or healing deity. No other Buddhas or Bodhisattvas make vows specific to prisoners or to victims of natural disasters. I'm not sure why they group those two groups together in this vow, but he does vow to save prisoners who have repented and victims of these natural disasters. Number 11. I vow to save those who suffer from starvation and those who committed crime to obtain food. I love this one because it shows compassion specifically toward people who commit crimes of necessity. I believe that the vast majority, if not all, of crime ever committed reflects a failure of society to meet the needs of the people, and this vow shows that sort of compassion for those in need. Number 12. I vow to save those who suffer from poverty, tormented by mosquitoes and wasps day and night. This vow continues in the same thread as the previous one. He vows to protect and save those in poverty. He also specifically mentions mosquitoes, which carry malaria and other really harmful pathogens. So this continues on in his theme as a healer or a doctor. Through the sutra where he makes these vows, Bhaisajyaguru gained a great deal of popularity. The manuscripts we have for this text originate in the northwestern regions of India in the 7th century CE, which makes it a rather late Mahayana text. But Bhaisajyaguru exists in older texts as well. He's mentioned in passing in several of the sutras we've read and discussed, like the Lotus Sutra and others. It is just that he never gets any characteristics or backstory in any of those mentions. He's just listed as a figure in the audience, or he's mentioned as another Buddha in another realm. As a fully realized Buddha, Bhaisajyaguru is said to preside over the Eastern Pure Land, known as Vaidurya Nirbhasa. This translates to pure lapis lazuli. In iconography, Bhaisajyaguru is commonly depicted as either standing or sitting. In the standing position, he's thought of as being more active, getting up to go save sentient beings. Many of his statues even have one foot slightly advanced in front of the other, which represents him in motion. When sitting, he's thought of as being in meditation or presiding over his Pure Land. When he is standing or sitting, he's commonly seen holding a medicine bowl, again symbolizing his role as a healer. In China and Japan, he's said to have 12 military generals that protect and serve him. They're not human generals, but rather yakshas, or Hindu nature spirits. These figures are incorporated from the Hindu cosmology, and they're often seen surrounding Bhaisajyaguru in a protective circle. In addition, he will sometimes also have 2 bodhisattva attendants that stand with him. Their names are Suryaprabha, bodhisattva of sunlight, and Chandraprabha, bodhisattva of moonlight. These 2 are siblings, and they're part of the common Pure Land triad system, where Buddhas that preside over a Pure Land are usually shown in statuary in a triad, with 2 other Buddhas or bodhisattvas to their left and right. These siblings and their presence as Bhaisajyaguru's attendants in his Pure Land are described in the Tantras about the Pure Land Vaidurya Nirbhasa.
What are some stories about him?
In the Lotus Sutra, Bhaisajyaguru appears as Bhaisajyaraja, Medicine King, in chapter 13, encouraging devotion. This is a chapter that we have not yet read, in which Bhaisajyaguru verbally promises to embrace the teaching of the Lotus Sutra. He comes up again in chapter 25, Former Affairs of the Bodhisattva Bhaisajyaraja, Medicine King. In this chapter, the Buddha tells the story of Bhaisajyaguru in a previous life, and there he's known as the Bodhisattva Sarvasattva Priyadarshana. In this life, he self-immolated, lighting up many world systems for 12 years, as an offering to the Buddha. This is a historically crucial chapter. It teaches self-immolation as a practice of the Lotus Sutra and as an offering to the Buddha. This practice took off in Asia as a means of creating a karmic connection to the narrative and to the teaching of the Lotus Sutra. And instead of burning the whole body and committing suicide, oftentimes the immolation would involve burning a piece of the body. A very common practice in Asia historically and in the present day is using incense to burn the scalp. Bhaisajyaguru does not figure prominently in the texts themselves, but he's very popular as a subject of worship for many East Asian Buddhist cults. They chant his mantra, create images of him, light blue paper lanterns in veneration of him, and meditate on his Pure Land. His Pure Land to the eastern direction is often confused with or interchanged with or even fused with Akshobhya's Pure Land, Abhirati, which is also to the east. For more on Akshobhya, see episode 84, Who is Akshobhya? Link in the show notes. In either case, Bhaisajyaguru's Pure Land is the second or third most popular object of Pure Land Buddhist devotion historically, behind Amitabha and his Pure Land. Most worship of him and rituals to be reborn in his Pure Land have fizzled out, but they were very historically popular in medieval China and Japan.
What is his significance?
We've talked about his connotations with medicine and healing in the context of the Dharma, and in order to bear out that significance a little more, we should talk a bit about traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine refers to an alternative to Western clinical medicine. It emphasizes the usage of herbs, acupuncture procedures, and breathing exercises to treat various injuries, infectious diseases, and chronic ailments. What we refer to as traditional Chinese medicine is not any one thing. There are many different quote-unquote traditions. However, note that the bulk of the content of traditional Chinese medicine was invented by a Western-trained Chinese medical doctor in the 1950s, who faced persecution during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. There's a traditional Chinese medicine, with a capital TCM, and then there are medicinal practices from all the different regions of China that have been preserved since before the revolution. Then there are the medicinal practices and doctrines that exist in the texts going back to ancient times. All of these coexist, interact with each other, and play out in many Chinese people's lives every day. We could do a whole episode on traditional Chinese medicine, but for now we'll just speak to the significance of Bhaisajyaguru in its context. Traditional Chinese medicine draws influence from Taoism, Confucianism, Chinese folk religion, and more. Importantly for our discussion, Buddhism plays a significant role in it as well. Here's an example of how closely Chinese medicine is connected to Buddhism. The Buddhist texts describe the 5 pungent plants that ought to be avoided: onions, chives, green onions, garlic, and ginger. The reason they ought to be avoided is their smell, but also there are claims that they cause physical and psychological responses when consumed. For example, onions, shallots, chives, and green onions were described in the texts as stimulants that make one more highly prone to mood swings and sexual desire. Thus, ancient Chinese Buddhist monks were prohibited from consuming these plants. These physical effects were not described until Buddhism had a foothold in China, indicating that they likely came from Chinese medicinal doctrine. That may make one think that one of these, either traditional Chinese medicine or Buddhism, kind of had an influence over the other, but the very concept of the 5 pungent foods doesn't appear historically until Buddhism already had a foothold in China. Thus, scholars conclude that the entire idea of the 5 pungent plants and avoiding them in Buddhist practice introduces this whole chicken and egg problem with regards to Buddhist monastic rules and traditional Chinese medicine. No one is really sure which one influenced the other, and which one is the origin for this doctrine of the 5 pungent plants. Bhaisajyaguru was thought of in the same way that we may think of as a patron saint for medicine and healing. In ancient and medieval times in China, when people were ill, they would pray to Bhaisajyaguru for health. When physicians would treat people, they would pray or chant to Bhaisajyaguru for skill and efficacy in treatment. The presence of medicinal properties in certain plants and minerals was regarded as a religious truth that could be attributed to the Buddha activity of Bhaisajyaguru. When somebody coalesced and felt better after some kind of illness or injury, praise and worship were given to Bhaisajyaguru. These practices were not universal across the Buddhist world in this time period, however. They were concentrated in the urban centers where cults to Bhaisajyaguru existed and were practicing. Later on in history, these practices simply lost popularity as worship and veneration of Shakyamuni, Amitabha, Vairocana, and other Buddhas superseded Bhaisajyaguru. Eventually, knowledge of Bhaisajyaguru and his rituals became limited only to highly educated and well-studied monks. In the present day, he maintains a status as one of the 13 Buddhas of esoteric Buddhism, and he's still the object of some worship rituals, but there are few remaining cults to him, and he's now just a member of the pantheon, rather than the central object of worship.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode on Bhaisajyaguru. Join us next week where we will be discussing the 3 mysteries of Shingon Buddhism. What are the 3 mysteries in Shingon Buddhism? What are their significance? How ought we understand them? We hope to see you there, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Hi, Nick here, and you've been listening to Bright on Buddhism. Normally at this point in the episode, we would throw to a charity that we think that is deserving of your money or your support. Because there's so much going on right now, we have decided that we're going to open it up to any charity that you think is a good cause to share your resources with. So, if you like our show and would like to support us, please instead give to a charity that you believe does good things for people in need. Thank you.
My name is Nick Bright, scholar of East Asian religions and voice of Hearer.
And I'm Dox, editor, question asker, and voice of Hermit.
And this has meant Bright on Buddhism. Thank you for listening. If you like our podcast, or if you have a question you'd like us to discuss, we'd love to hear from you. Please consider leaving a comment or review, subscribing, or joining us on social media. Email us at bright.on.buddhism@gmail.com or find us on Mastodon at brightbuddhism@mstdn.party. As always, citations and resources for this episode can be found in the show notes. Thank you.